David, very thank you for your presentation. Have we got any questions from the floor, please?
David, I've used Tyre Blocks in retaining walls, but I've never thought of using them in sud systems, which is quite attractive, especially with the cost of storm cell and echo and things like that.
Yeah.
But have you ever managed to get them sort of adopted as part of a drainage network by any of the water authorities?
No, not as yet. We haven't really sort of pushed that avenue. The last time I was looking at using them in water attenuation was with Logan or Langdon down in Cardiff, where they built a new incinerator for Viridor. He was very interested in using them because he could obviously see that the high void ratio on the tyre wheels in comparison to the Storm. It was very similar. Is it Storm Block? Storm Cell. It's very similar, but obviously, what you've highlighted is extremely cost effective. Ultimately, the reason why we didn't win that project was down to we didn't have any previous projects that we've used them in before. So I think it's one of those things where we need to sort of get it started with someone on a small scale project, and we can get some impact information from it.
Peter Simmons match. Just a simple one first. You might have mentioned it. How many tyres actually go into a block, first of all?
Approximately 100 to 120. And they're car, van or motorbike tyres.
I was going to say, you mentioned van tyres were formed in the blocks before. I was going to say, is there a particular reason why it's van tyres and not sort of general commercial tyres or large lorry tyres?
It's quite interesting, really. With regards to when the PAS 108 specification was created, they only use car, van and bike tyres. So when they only use that, this is what they've then specified. So unfortunately, unfortunately now we can't put anything else in there because that's the tried and tested model, which is probably positive really, because you would get, until we can start certifying these companies, you would get companies just putting anything in there. So you stick to the car, van, 4x4, which is classed as sort of like your general passenger vehicle tyre. And what you do then is that you do keep a good form of the tyre block. So if you imagine you put a lorry tyre in there, a truck tyre, that's probably going to have a bit more strength to push out a bit. So instead of getting a nice sort of uniform tyre block, you would have something which would be a bit deformed, really.
What's the life of the banding on it?
Right, okay, well, if they galvanise steel and they turn around and they say, well, it could be 20 years on there, ultimately we don't know. But the important thing to remember with regards to these tyre blocks is that once these steel go, you're working with rubber essentially, so once it's compressed into a certain shape, it's going to stay in that shape. It's not going to, if within a year you clip all the bands on it, it's not going to go and explode out the floor and someone's going to bring you up and say, well, you need to move these tyres, and then we come along and charge you £1 to take them away. But they keep the shape, they keep the conformity, and the way in which they're installed is that the wires are actually put face on. So if, in example, they were broke within or cut within a first few weeks of being there before you managed to cover it with geotex, they're just going to go into each other and they're not going to move. So the life on it, they do say is 20 years, but once they're gone, these tyre blocks are going to be staying in the same place anyway.
So, when you're using an embankment, do you cover them with geotextile, or do you allow the fill material to go in between the tyres?
We cover them with geotextile. What we tend to suggest is that when you lay on there, you use a small bit of aggregate just to put in the big voids. So if you, obviously 4 tyre blocks, you're going to have a sort of square in the middle. So we say just to use those tyre blocks, the gravel aggregates in those voids, and then we keep the geotex underneath and obviously wrap it back around then. Put your whatever on top and soil.
Have you had any issues with flammability, maliciously or spontaneously? Or?
Well, not yet, no. No, it's. I think it's that. I'm glad you asked that question actually, because it's a negative thing which is sort of held about the tyre industry, because there are some unscrupulous people involved in the industry. They will go and fill up barns and everything with tyres, and then when they realise that they can't do anything with them because they're stupid essentially, they just they set it on fire. So if you think down in Swansea, it was a couple of years ago, Swansea had a large tyre fire down there because of someone not doing the job properly. So with regards to the tyre blocks as they are, you could probably spend half a day trying to set them on fire if you wanted to, but they're extremely hard, extremely hard. Once they get going, they don't stop, but we haven't had any issues with it, and nobody I know who's doing the job properly has either.
I just wondered, when you're using them as a drainage medium for a landfill site, do you use a single layer of block or do you use multiple layers?
We just use a single layer, which is adequate really. Yeah, you put them there, you've seen what was on there then, that's a forwarder from the forestry, which you usually use for carrying the logs. So you just lay a single layer, and this forwarder machine, it can lay like 250, 300 of these blocks a day, which in terms of volume is, I think it's about 510, 520 in comparison. So that's all you need with it really, it does the job from that.
What about compression and the weight of the waste on the blocks themselves?
Well, because of the bulk density of it, they just take the weight. They take the weight. We've been doing it for 5 years, and it was probably done on a couple of landfill sites before we started doing it with our associates, and there hasn't been any issue with it at all. And obviously, in using them sort of environments, as well as the Environment Agency, the designers, they're going to sort of specify or do the research that they need to, and yeah, no issues yet, and it's been more than adequate.
David, I think you mentioned a farm where you had just a few blocks, and then Manchester where you need 75,000 or something. How is supply and demand controlled? Because it seems to me they're just sort of completely off the scale, each end of the scale.
Yeah.
And I wondered how you got that.
Well, this is one of the main reasons why we've established the Tyre Block Association. This is a way that we can sort of control the industry, not in terms of just doing or producing the tyre block correctly, but supplying then to these major projects which are going to be coming along. With regards to sort of 75 tyre blocks in a sound barrier, we can cover that ourselves. We, on our site, can store up to 2,500 tonnes, as the Environment Agency is classed as waste, but we see it as about 1,500 tyre blocks. Okay, so if we win this project now, well, for example, Scunthorpe, 5,500 tyre blocks all the way up to Scunthorpe. I worked with about 6 other companies that supplied that project. So I supplied probably over the period of 4 months, say 800 tyre blocks from my site. But then I worked with a company in Carlisle, one in Northampton, one on the doorstep in Lincolnshire, in Boston, one just up the road in Sheffield. So I work with all these different companies then and broker them into that project. So I'll go in, I'll check that they're doing everything right. I'll then make sure that they roll them in at the right time and work the logistics on it more than anything. So with regards to 75,000, that's a massive project, huge project. But in terms of supply, I know through tried and tested processes that I'll be able to do that and manage it as well.
So you manufacture them at your place, do you?
Yeah, I manufacture them. I mean, the project we're in at the moment, JM Bentley, that's 1,500 tyre blocks. We're going to be supplying all that project ourselves.
Wouldn't you be better, in this Manchester one, wouldn't it be better to set it up in Manchester next door, to where they want it?
Well, you could do, but essentially what you'd be doing then is that you'd have to create a new market. I mean, Ron Morris Environmental at the forefront collects waste tyres and recycles them. Now we started off, it took us 6 months to obtain an environmental permit to put all the infrastructure in place. And once we'd done that, we had to then actually go out to the industry and collect tyres. It's a very competitive market. We do charge for collecting tyres, but there's people that will collect for next to nothing, and we've still got to build a business at the front end. So if we went to Manchester and said, right, we're going to start collecting tyres, we wouldn't really be doing ourselves any favour, we're just giving ourselves more headache, really. So what we would do is basically, when we sat down, and if they are definitely going to use them, we'd set up a time scale. Obviously we work out the cost on it, but we'd build in the transport, and we'd have an approved amount of suppliers. Maybe for that sort of project we'd have 10, 15 suppliers, and then we just manage it. We get one person on it full time, just managing the logistics of sending them in. And that way you're not creating more headaches for yourself, and you're not putting yourself into an area where you're going to upset the industry as it is as well.
Any more questions? On the back there?
Can you bail on site? The reason I ask is we use this on Church Village bypass.
That's right, yeah, with Captain Simmons, was it?
No, with Coste. Capita within Pazzi.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. We can't do that anymore. The Environment Agency will not allow us to do it, mainly because it's one of these areas where you need an exemption to do it from the Environment Agency. But if you get an exemption, the Environment Agency then can't see what you're actually doing. So you could be baling up any sorts of rubbish in these tyre bales. Like, we can't put tyres into a tyre block to be the correct specification if they've been perished on the sidewall. So if you've got a large amount of perishment on a tyre, they assume then that could create negative impacts to the environment through leachate. So we wouldn't put that in. But if you go on site, which we probably did at Church Village as well, you just probably put all the tyres in, build it up and put them into the wall. And as long as they were near enough the right size and you could work with them, then they were happy with them. But bearing in mind that was a time before we actually started taking this product seriously and sort of bringing it forward to the industry as a certified product, really.
Yeah, the benefit for us on Church Village is we found the 300,000 tyres on site.
Yeah. Well, it's like I say, it's got back to the 10% earlier. It's got a...
They were there, but the advantage of doing it on site is not transporting them to your site to Bale and to take them back.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And you didn't have to pay for it either, did you?
Couldn't comment.
Well, essentially this is how we make money. So what the Environment Agency would turn around and say, well, you've got these tyres here. Maybe, you know, they would turn around and say, well, yeah, you can use these in this instance. But what are you actually using? You're using old tyres, decrepit tyres. You don't know in 15, 20 years or whatever, because of the processes you went through, that some testing is going to be done in that river down by there, and they're going to be finding there's leachate of zinc in there, because you don't know what you're using. So that's one of the reasons why they've turned around and said, no, you know, it's got to be done correctly now, and that's why we're here doing what we're doing, really.
As an industry, it's quite difficult for us to bring in innovation, and it seems that you're trying very hard to bring this in.
Yeah.
You've talked a lot about regulation and legislation, etc. How difficult is it for you actually to make this work?
Right, okay. Are you talking now, asking the question that if you were looking at a project now, or from what I've been done?
In terms of your experience, you've talked about the natural resources Wales putting certain requirements on you, etc., etc. Do you think they're fair enough, or actually is it too challenging for you? No,
it's not too challenging for us, and I think it's positive that they're taking a serious interest in the actual the tyre blocks. Essentially, you are working with a waste product, but we want to have this industry put forward as a supplier of this product professionally. So the more, and I don't like to use the phrase, but the more loops that they put there, we're happy to do it because it shows us in a professional light. For example, the most recent with the environmental impact data, it was a very substantial investment we had to put into that to get that information. We knew it would come back positive and it would be okay for everybody then to use. But by going through that loop, going over that hurdle for the Environment Agency, they then are sitting down and they're taking us very, very seriously. They know that tyres, as you know, if you go back to what those 300,000 that were dumped on that site in Church Village, they know that tyres are a problem, and anything that can be produced which can be used correctly and saves them from being dumped is only a positive.
Hi there. I wonder what are the next sort of steps you can take with this product? Is the potential to a sort of an interlocking kind of arrangement? Is there the potential to anchor the blocks and look at something like coastal defence in more industrial sort of areas, that sort of application?
Yeah, I think that is something which is the next step. We don't know what the next step is. To be honest with you, it's where we are with it at the moment. We're just on the cusp of, they're being used, they're being taken seriously, just on the cusp of doing some more major projects. But I think with regards to what you're saying, in the next 5 to 10 years, then that sort of options, as long as they're successful, which they will be, in what they're doing at the moment, then that will be the next stage. With regards to just going back to what we're doing with the Environment Agency, Natural Resources Wales, we're actually talking with them and DEFRA as well, which is the Department for, I can't remember, the agricultural waste, I think, or something like that. We're actually sat down working with them with regards to flood defences, which is a major thing, obviously, if you think about the floods last year in Somerset, etc. So building up the levees and everything. We've done case studies on there, one of our associates in the Tyre Blocks Association. So when we're actually sitting down working seriously with them, so there could be a major call for these Tyre Blocks by the Environment Agency and flood defences. And that'll keep us busy for quite a few years.
Thanks.
Anyone got a burning final question? Burning being not the right word.
Sorry?
Do your tyre bills floor?
No, they don't. It's, I mean, they're way more, on touch to a ton, and they cover a small area. So I think if you've got any tidal environments, they are going to be sort of moved about a bit, similar to what we said with regards to anchoring. But yeah, whatever application with regards to that, I don't think would be successful.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Really quick question. Siltation, if you were to use them in a sud scheme, how would you deal with siltation build-up?
Could you repeat that, sorry?
If you were to use them in a sud scheme, how would you deal with siltation build-up?
Now, I assume now that with regards to those storm cells, that they've got a certain thing that they use, which then actually takes the silt through it and then washes it through. Is that correct? I'm asking you for help here.
Some do, some don't.
So some do, some don't.
The more expensive ones you can clean, the cheap ones you can't.
Right, okay. So, but if you think the amount of money you'd be saving on using the tyre blocks, if you then use their system for taking out the silt, then you still save yourself a lot of money. So yes, we haven't thought about it, but we'll steal their idea.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's extremely interesting and sustainable form of construction, so thank you for sharing that information with us. You know that we raise funds for these business breakfasts, so anybody with ideas for sponsoring a business breakfast in the future, we'll pass your contact details, and please, it's a two-way flow now. If you need any information, you've got your packs in front of you there, and please come straight through to David.
Thank you.
So, can I call and introduce David?
Thank you.